Air conditioning. It's a little hot to be wearing a tie. Welcome to the Gribley's Folly Sunday Antisocial Hour. Obviously, I am on location. I just left a wedding early so that I can bring you the Sunday Antisocials. I was like, look, sorry, I know we still got the reception, but my fans need me. It's like 96 degrees outside, and that's coincidentally the age of the person driving the car in front of me. The hell, man, get out of, oh, I think that's the bride's parents. Maybe I should act professional. So I've been doing these weddings all weekend long, these remote places. Actually, this isn't very remote. It's just way up on top of a mountain with no restrooms. So I've been intentionally dehydrating myself. Yesterday's wedding was on an island in a lake. There was a little, like, jetty. Is it a jetty if that's connected? There was a bridge built out to it. We all had to ride the trolley across the bridge. There were no restrooms anywhere around. So again, purposefully dehydrating myself. I'm gonna drink 1.5 liters of water and I'll be right back. Driving out of here, I have no idea where I am. I'm just kind of following the rest of the wedding guests. And it's been a little bit of a weekend already. I swear if I could buy pipe tobacco and fly tying materials with my EBT card, I would give this gig up. All right, we have made it back to the Gribley's Folly Community Garden and Massage Parlor, and I'm pouring myself a piping hot cup of afternoon coffee, getting ready to light up some Fusiliers ration in my Missouri Meerschaum hardwood, custom rusticated by Blue Sage Thrift. Is that even still a thing? I need to look him up and make sure he's still custom rusticating pipes. Anyway, give me a minute to get this lit. I was gonna do the whole video from the road, but I did actually drink that 1.5 liters of water. And then I got caught in a big traffic jam, so that was pretty awkward. Also, I didn't want to be tabbing over between the comments and the questions and all that. You know, I love my job. I haven't lit my pipe yet. All this prep, I haven't gotten the pipe lit. I love my job, and I love working really hard. But I don't like working really hard in the hot, hot sun. That's just a little too much for me. I have less hair than I used to, and I worry about, like, boiling my brain at a wedding. So I bought, you know, previously my lenses were modern, and I decided to screw it. I want to shoot with vintage lenses. So I bought a bunch of vintage lenses, and Legacy Glass, they're called, and they're all pure metal and glass. There's no plastic in them. And this was my first, yesterday was my first real brutal outdoor wedding. And the lenses got so hot, I almost couldn't hold them. Like they were just this hunk of black metal and glass. And I thought, man, this is gonna, like, I don't know if my camera can take this. But it did fine. It was a little bit concerning. Let's get right to your questions, shall we? I've been wanting to answer this one all week. Typing Piper asks Gribbs, have you ever caught other fly fishermen checking out your yoga butt while in the woods? Yes. Why do you think I don't wear waders? It's because I work hard for this and I want to show it off. Today I'm taking your questions right off of YouTube. Normally I make a little extra document because YouTube sucks. So forgive me if there's some stuttering, some technical difficulties while I read through everything. So yeah, thank you all for your support on my mid-year reckoning, and thanks for all the conversation on the whole concentration camp at the border thing, which is still going. Trump is a genius. The man is a genius. And I actually recorded a whole video about this, decided not to post it. I made a big Facebook post, decided not to post it. And then Rush Limbaugh came out the next day and said everything I'd been thinking. Which, I mean, it's not really that insightful. It's just that Trump is he's either a super genius or he is just an instinctive politician. One of the two. He's like an apex predator, man. He's such a terrible person that it either comes naturally or he's the most Machiavellian person in history. But the executive order was brilliant. It was brilliant because it neutered the opposition and it allowed his base to think that he has compassion while at the same time maintaining the status quo, right? It was never about the kids. It was about the concentration camps, which are still a thing, right? There's still people by the thousands being detained in impromptu shelters and tent cities and all that. And yeah, as long as there's no children being separated from their parents, hell, we don't care about that. We don't, we're not going to. You get what I'm trying to say. And actually, of course, there still are children being separated from their parents. But yeah, big media circus. Now we're all pissed about Melania's jacket because Trump's a genius. And I'm sure he was like, hey, Melania, go do something stupid like the day after I do this thing, and then we'll all be talking about that instead of this other thing I was doing. Robert Dixon asked Gribbs, if you achieved all your goals, would you feel better and for how many seconds? Whoa now, Robert. Whoa. Don't point out the fact that I'm going to be relentlessly self-deprecating no matter what. I'm not interested in this negative talk about my negative talk. So Typing Piper and the Hitman had a whole little convo in the comments down here about Hitler's health habits, including injecting himself with gypsy feces. Moving on. Let's see. Paulie's brother, John, thank you so much for your comments as always. David 35445 asked, do you carry a snake bite kit with you, or will you go old school and suck out the venom after making a cut? I do not carry a snake bite kit. I didn't really even know that was a thing. I thought that was kind of like a made up thing. That's a thing? Maybe I should carry a snake bite kit. I was trying to remember if I've seen 4 or 5 snakes thus far this year. I was at the river with my boy yesterday, day before yesterday now. I've been shooting more weddings in the last 24 hours. I've spent more hours shooting weddings than I have sleeping. So, in the last 48 hours. So, it's going to take a second. Carving Piper likes the squirmy wormy. Carving Piper, come on now. I need to tie you up some Sakasa Kabares or something like that. Anyway, I don't carry a snakebite pit. Okay, right. I was at the creek with my boy. He was going to this like pile of dead brush where a tree fell, and I was like, son, getting all fatherly, like, son, don't go near that brush. There's a snake in that brush. He didn't believe me. I went over, I picked him up. I'm like, look, there's a snake. Yep, there was a snake right there. Andrew Sirigliano, Paulie's brother, you hearing this? He says, thank you for the videos, and Tenkara is becoming quite popular. One of the few styles I have not really gotten into yet. Yeah, you should definitely get into it. It is, I think, it's a perfect balance of like fun and nerdery. Like fly fishing, a little too much nerdery, a little too much gear-headedry. Tenkara, perfect. David 35445 says, the bucket contains a ball of twine and 3 gum wrappers. He's, of course, referring to the mystery orange bucket that's here in the community garden massage parlor, whose contents will one day be revealed. I don't know what the pool is up to now. Who's in, by the way? Let's put some real money on the line here. We'll send it to somebody who needs it or something like that. Ask Gribbs, Tabasco or Frank's Tabasco. Let's see, David 45. Oh, that's not a question. Sorry, David. User screen name sucks. Do cobs taste better after you build up cake? I don't think so. I think that once you burn through the initial corn layer, it's all going to taste pretty much the same. I think the corn kind of cakeifies immediately, is what I'm trying to say. Like it forms a layer of carbon faster than a briar would because you're not waiting for the residue of the tobacco to form the layer of carbon. It's simply the burned corn. Scott Woodard asks, if you were expelled from North Carolina, what is all these questions of like, if I was expelled from North Carolina? Like, what do you guys think I'm doing here? Running a meth lab or something? If you were expelled from North Carolina and chose to live on a mesa in New Mexico, how would you know you weren't on a butte or a plateau? Well, I would hit F3 and the debug screen would show me my biome. Derek Tant says, Jade Helm was held in my local area. A Walmart closed here for plumbing issues. The Army did not take us over, and a Walmart reopened with new plumbing. Yeah, and carbon mind-controlling nanobots in the plumbing. Dude, I wouldn't use a urinal in that Walmart if my life depended on it. Derek Tant asked Gribbs, Ernest P. Worrell or Pee Wee Herman. Of course, Ernest P. Worrell. Come on. There are Beatles men and there are Elvis men, right? There are Ernest men and there are Pee Wee men, and I am an Ernest man. Jim Varney was a damn national treasure. Okay, John Gallieri says, only one question for Gribbs on this Father's Day. This was last weekend. Let me not pour hot coffee all over my testicles because this involves children. Although I don't think I'm going to be reproducing anymore. But still, you know, you never know. Ask Gribbs, what is the one thing you wish most for your son as he grows up? That's a big one. That's a good question. I mean, what is the one thing I wish for my kids as they grow up? Like the generic wish for my son as he grows up, you know, world peace, happiness, freedom from hunger, that sort of thing. Specifically to my son, though, he's gonna need a lot of acceptance in his life because he has cerebral palsy, which I think you guys know. I don't talk too much about that stuff because he was born very premature, and so he has very mild cerebral palsy. He also has some developmental delays. He's a sensitive little boy, and so he can hold his own for sure. He's a tough little guy, but he doesn't deal well. He's like me. If you're not willing to talk to him on his level, he just has no time for you. And so I'm interested to see how the education system is going to deal with that. Number one, they're not. We've already seen that they're not. They're not willing to deal with it. And so we're sending him to private preschool, and in the hopes that we can get him sort of more acclimated to the world before we send him to the regular old cannon fodder school, as Typing Piper likes to call it. So I'm hoping that we run into a long string of educators who will accept him for who he is, because he really is. He doesn't. I mean, of course, every parent feels this way about their kid. He's different. He's got some different things going on. He's not going to be walking by the time he goes to preschool. He's going to be using his walker still. So he's going to get some looks from the other kids. That's okay. That's okay. I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with is the behavior that I witnessed when I was teaching. I witnessed the special ed teachers delivering behavior to their charges that will not go over well if it happens with my kid. And I don't think we're talking about kids that were like not really all that functional. My kid is plenty functional. He's gonna be fine learning his math and his words and all that. His math and his words. He's gonna be great learning. He's gonna be just as smart as I am with his words. I think my main struggle in life has been that I'm wicked smart, right? But I don't want to deal with people. I just don't want, so my entire life, we're going to split up into groups and work on this project. No, I'm not. No, sorry. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the whole thing myself because all the other people in my group are total slackers and they're dumbasses and I don't want to deal with it. So y'all just shut up and I'm going to do this project for you. That was how it worked my entire life. And then when I had teachers that didn't deal well with that, no one tried to meet me. No one tried to meet me halfway and say, yeah, I get that you feel like you know how to do this better than everybody else, but maybe one day you might run into someone you can learn from. Nah, fuck that, man. I'm smarter than everybody else. No, Gribbs, you're not. You're not actually that smart. And, so I think that my kid is going to have that problem. Number one, because he's my son. Number two, because I'm going to be raising him. And number three, because of whatever developmental issues he's got from being a preemie. He's not well socialized. So I want educators that will try to meet him halfway and figure out what he needs to sort of come out of that shell, because I'm still not out of that shell. So screw all y'all. Pipe Smoking Board Gamer Double Dog dares me to watch one of my own videos and take a shot every time I say tant. Then, and do it live. No joke, do it, boom. Okay, all right. But the issue is, I can't do that the day before a wedding. So we'll have to find a good time when I can. There's two things I need to do. One, I need to do this challenge, and I need my buddy Greg. Oh, Greg wants to hear the tofu story. We're going to get to that. My buddy Greg sent me some jackknife plug, which I'm smart enough to try only on a really full stomach. So I need to set aside an evening, probably like a Friday evening, make sure I don't have anything the next morning, and do these challenges. Probably not on the same night either. It's two separate challenges. Okay, Bo Huntin' Hoosier asked Gribbs thoughts on flake tobacco versus ribbon cut. Well, I'm technically smoking a flake right now. I think I prefer flake. I don't know why, but I like the process of rubbing it out. Ribbon cut, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not like I wouldn't smoke a ribbon cut, but just between the two cuts, I think a flake is where it is. You feel like you're more a part of the process. Yeah, okay, Typing Piper. If a man is sodomized with his own corncob pipe, has he been cornholed? Have you ever thought, maybe, like, so I'm off my meds. Do you want them? Also, Typing Piper asks, if ginseng is so great, why has it never been used for a topping for pipe tobacco? That's a good question. I'm not going to go poach ginseng to find out. But wait, is ginseng even a... I know it's like a supplement, but is it a spice? Like, is that like saying, why don't they use jalapenos on pipe tobacco? Or is it like saying, why don't they use vitamin B12 on pipe tobacco? I don't know. Good question. Typing Piper was very prolific this week. At what point should people hunt down and slap the shit out of conspiracy theorists? I'm aiming toward this Anthony Bourdain child pedophile killery Harvey Weinstein BS. I don't know about this one. I think conspiracy theorists really serve a good purpose. But I know what you're saying. Sometimes they just, yeah. I think the threshold for me is, okay, serious answer. If you think Sandy Hook didn't really happen, you should probably have the slit shept. I need more coffee. Randy Cutler asked Gribbs, where is Amy Mack? As far as I know, Amy Mack is still in St. Louis, but I'm sorry to tell you guys, I feel like this was really her thing to say, but I don't think her channel is going to be updated anytime soon. But Amy Mack is now a vegan. That's the only news I've heard out of Amy. I saw on Facebook that she is now a vegan, and I said, as long as you can still eat brown sugar Pop-Tarts, I will not judge. And as you guys know, I have my own quarrels with my inner moralities on meat eating, so I'm out of coffee. This is no good. So, Amy, why don't you, tell you what, you can be a guest on the channel anytime you want and explain to us this crazy lifestyle you're now living. But yes, I think Amy is probably out of the realm of pipe commentary at this point, but that's just, I don't know, she might make a comeback. So that's it for your questions. Let's get to the tofu story. My mother-in-law likes to make tofu. And I don't like to eat tofu. I've never liked to eat tofu. I've told this story before, actually, on the channel. I don't like to eat tofu, but in the past, I ate it out of politeness and sometimes out of hunger. And she's made this, I mean, I've known this woman for 20 years, and, you know, she's always made it the same way. Soy sauce on top of the soy that is tofu, and fries it up. And that's how it is, and that is tofu. And she makes it very frequently in our house, and my son likes it, and so she often makes it for him. And so the tofu story is that just before Christmas 2 years ago, he got a sinus infection, and they put him on. It was like this recurring sinus infection. It was like spinning off ear infections, and they put him on some kind of high-powered antibiotics. And the deal with the antibiotics was that they upset his stomach something fierce, and that was sort of the thing. They were like, look, it's either this or we're gonna have to do surgery and like tube his ears so he doesn't keep getting these ear infections. So we got to knock this thing out. Okay. So we, went and bought an extra 50 pack of diapers that week or whatever, because poor little guy was pooping his brains out all the time because of these drugs that he was on. So it was like the 21st of December. And I had a shoot, and my mother-in-law came to watch the boy. And he was feeling fine. He was just pooping a lot. She came to watch the boy, and she made a bunch of tofu. And I came home from the shoot. I was driving home from the shoot, and I saw an owl. And so I like stopped and chased this owl through the field for like an hour. This is just a random thing that I remember from that day. And it was at lunchtime anyway, and I came home and I was just starving. And she left, and I hadn't bought any groceries because we were broke. It was Christmas. It was that time you get in like right before Christmas, before the partying starts, but after you've bought everything, And there was like this steaming hot pile of tofu. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to eat a bowl of tofu, like a bowl of tofu. And I was so hungry. And I ate this tofu. And as I'm going through this bowl of tofu, the hunger started to sort of turn into this weird like pain. And I thought, man, I'm just like really, really hungry. And I think I hadn't eaten breakfast that morning. It was, but I noticed it just kind of made me feel a little weird. And meanwhile, my son's pooping all over the place. And after an hour or so, I started to feel really bad. My wife came home, and we had like run out of his antibiotics or something like that. She went to go get him something at the store. So she took him to the store, which was a bad idea anyway because he was pooping all over the place. And while she was gone, I started feeling really bad, like really, really bad. And I remember sitting on the bed thinking, this is really bad. Like, this is not normal. This is not like because sometimes you just feel bad, especially when we were in like the second year of parenting. You never get any sleep. You feel bad all the time. But I was just like, man, I'm actually feeling bad. And that was kind of the last coherent thought I remember having. Because what had happened was that in all the doctor's visits, my son had gotten the norovirus. But we didn't notice because he was already pooping his brains out so much anyway. So we didn't notice until I got the norovirus. And I threw up that entire bowl of tofu. And then everything else that I had ever eaten in my entire life. So I literally went from running around in the woods chasing an owl to home alone in my underwear, not knowing, like not being able to catch all the things that were coming out of my body from both ends. And then my wife was away, right? And she was at the store, and I realized that I couldn't move my hands. Like I could move my arms, but I could not move my hands. And then like a minute later, I realized that my hands were like shriveling up. And I had no idea what that meant. I did not know what was going on. And so I thought, okay, that's a sign that I need some help. Like I'm not going to mess around with whatever makes my hands shrivel up. And so I got my phone, and I was able to hold the phone, and then I discovered that I could not dial the phone. And so I was able to push the button. Like I was able to hold the phone with one hand and then push the button and slide it to unlock the phone. And then I made a call to someone in my recent calls list who happens to be a good friend who is a PA. And she answered the phone. And then I realized that I couldn't talk, that my speech was slurred. She recognized my voice, understood that my speech was slurred. And the next thing I knew, she was coming in the door because my wife was coming in the door because I was oblivious on the couch, throwing up and, in any event, I was so dehydrated that I couldn't talk, and my hands were, I had no fine motor movement in my hands. So she came in, nursed me back to health. She said that if it had gone on 1 second longer, I would have had to have gone to the ER. I remember that I've never tasted anything as good as the Gatorade that she made me drink through a straw. Anyway, so that was terrible. Sickest I've ever been. Then, of course, my wife got it the next day. Then the next day was the 23rd, and it was Christmas time, and my wife's family had rented a cabin. And we were like, yeah, we're not going to come to the cabin this year because we've all got the freaking norovirus or the rhinovirus or the whatever virus, the really bad stomach virus. And they were like, no, you got to come on. No, it's Christmas. And we're like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. Like, Max was almost dead. You don't want to. So anyway, of course, my wife eventually caved, and I was like, whatever, ain't my family. I don't care. So we go over to the cabin, and I walk in, and my mother-in-law is cooking tofu on the stove. We walked in, I turned around, I walked right back out, and I stood in the bushes for like 5 minutes trying not to throw up. And ever since then, she cooks tofu, and I have to leave the house. Like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Because I will never forget. Never, ever, ever forget. So, Greg, that is the tofu story, and I think I've fulfilled my weekly obligations here. Half an hour video of me talking about vomiting and complaining about the heat. That ought to do it. Let's see if Mr. Tant has responded. There was one question that I had for him. Oh! Pete Piper asked Gribbs to ask Mayor Tant, have you ever been bitten by a snake? This is how Mr. Tant got his nickname Snake Belly, by the way. He says, despite an abundance of western diamondback rattlesnakes and a few close calls, I have never been bitten. Well, that's good, and it certainly isn't, to the credit of his gunplay skills. Anyway, thank you for watching. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.